Hello, Abnormal Investigations family. Hope all of y'all are safe after the storms that passed through. You got pretty close to us. A couple of the tornadoes hit some neighbors of ours, the towns, and they're saying it could be an EF3 to an EF4 tornado. A lot of damage. I believe people did lose their lives. So prayers for everybody in Oklahoma, especially Bartlesville and Barnsdall. Like I said, our neighboring cities. And we just want to pray for y'all. If y'all would like to see some of the footage of those, if you visit my other channel, Wide Open Adventures, there's a video dropping that will show a little bit of the damage in Bartlesville. As I drove through it, I done some filming, so we'd like to invite you over there to subscribe and select all, of course, on Wide Open Adventures. I'll put the link in the description of this video. Back in the 80s, my dad had a friend, Joe, who worked for the Ohio Parks and Wildlife Division. He normally worked in the Columbus area. However, on this occasion, he was in town called Defiance, where the Independence Dam State Park is located. Joe described the park as being well hidden, nestled between a wide river and a thick forest of tall trees. Once inside it was a long and narrow with a small camping area in the back. One way in, one way out, and nothing but dense, deep forest behind it. Joe met with the Sheriff David, I believe, at his office. The day was pretty much uneventful until around 9 p.m., when a call came in requesting the sheriff and Joe responded to a couple of camping people down by the dam. After about a 15-minute drive through the park, they arrived at the very last campsite where an older silver RV was sitting. A couple in their mid to late 40s was standing outside waiting. The sheriff addressed the couple while Joe began looking around. The first thing he noticed was how everything had been thrown around. Lawn chairs upside down or broken, a smashed-up picnic table, and a heavy-duty grill that was cemented into the concrete slab had been bent in half. The couple said they had arrived earlier in the day to get everything set up and ready for a relaxing weekend of camping. They decided to catch some fresh fish for dinner, and that's when they said they felt as if they were being watched. A heavy uneasiness came over them as they realized nature had gone silent. No birds singing, crickets chirping, nothing. They chose to play it safe and return empty-handed. The couple returned to their RV and began making a different dinner for the evening, when it began violently shaking back and forth, knocking them both on the floor. It sounded as if they were surrounded on each side of the RV. However, they heard or saw nothing. After several minutes of being tossed around like rag dolls, the husband shouted that he had a gun. The rocking stopped abruptly and was followed by long, low bellows, which they could feel vibrating beneath their feet. Remember, this was the 80s, so there weren't any cell phones they could use to call for help. So they waited a while before grabbing their gun, throwing the RV door open, and booking it into their truck, where they drove to a payphone and called for help. The sheriff reassured the couple, telling them that they would check the area out and they would find the people responsible. Joe said he never forgot what the lady said next. She simply said, quote, "You are not looking for people," end quote. "Sheriff, you're looking for monsters." David went back to his vehicle, grabbed his shotgun, tossed a flashlight to Joe, and they headed into the woods. Joe wasn't for a moment thinking anything other than this being a bunch of teenagers, but he did notice a look of concern on David's face. The deeper they went into the dark, the darker it got. It became so dark that Joe could only see maybe a couple of feet in front of him. At one point he realized that David had stopped walking. When he turned to say something to him, he was met with a quick shh as he watched David point his finger toward the darkness. Joe shined the flashlight where he was pointing, which was about 15 feet or so. The area was thick with tall, wide trees packed tightly together. Between the trees, David whispered. Joe started moving the flashlight slowly up and down when he saw something pressed up against a tree. It was a huge leg. A man's leg, but bigger and hairier. He then saw a long, oddly shaped hand, which reminded him of what a human's hand might look like as if it had been broken and never healed properly. It had claws instead of nails that were long, sharp, and wide. The creature was hugging the tree completely, wrapped around it with its head looking through the wire of the tree, using the tree as camouflage, and let me tell you, it blended right in. Joe felt his heart drop into his stomach as his legs weakened. Then he felt it, the vibration beneath his feet the couple had described, followed by deep, long growls, the air filled with a suffocating, pungent odor, causing both men to recoil in disgust. Joe moved the flashlight up a good 8 feet off the ground when he saw a face. It was covered in thick brownish-gray hair, and it had the muzzle and teeth of a large canine. The eyes looked like two dancing orange flames, and they were looking right at him. "Shoot it," Joe whispered to David. As soon as those words left his mouth, several of those creatures, yes, several, began slowly creeping out from behind the trees. "We got to get out of here," David said softly while slowly walking backwards. Joe was the most terrified he'd ever been in his life and couldn't get his legs to move. He couldn't see them, but he could feel them moving in closer and closer with every passing second. The vibrations had become painful by this point, feeling as if his spine was getting ready to explode. There was a lot of pressure in their head and in their chest, and it was hard to breathe. Joe admitted to us that he thought those would be his last moments on Earth, viciously mauled by some unknown predators, when suddenly a bright flash of light lit the night sky and a loud bang followed. Terrifying screams filled the air, and Joe ran for his life. Later he found out that David had seen movement behind him and fired the shotgun in the direction, hoping to scare whatever these things were off. Eventually they made it back to the campers, both men black and blue with scratches from head to toe from running blind, and the sheriff made them vacate the area immediately. They closed the park for a few weeks after that incident, telling the public it was for repairs. Before Joe left to come back home, he asked the sheriff what he had thought he had seen that night. Without hesitation, he said it was a werewolf or a dogman. It was something that was part human, part canine. He then went on to tell him about the Defiance werewolf spotted back in the 70s. Apparently, a railway worker had an encounter with one stalking the tracks late one night. Even many, many years later, Joe says it's one of the most vivid memories he has. He'll never understand what they were or what caused those crazy vibrations, but he does know that they are real, and he'll never return to that part of Ohio again. You know, I've wondered before too, guys, whenever I done some of these investigations and a lot of the readings, they use the trees, I believe, for camouflage also. I don't believe that these creatures, while in the flesh and blood, are using portals to escape or anything like that, but I do believe they have adaptive camouflage. And if they can hug a tree and they have adaptive camouflage, they're going to disappear just like that. You're not going to see them. And I believe that since they do live in the woods and this is a part of their life and how they hunt and how they exist, they become professionals at it. They're experts at hiding in the woods. They're experts at not being seen, and they're experts at not being found. We know that now. I think you're pretty lucky to get out of there, seeing that you did fire at them, but they do know what guns are, and I believe they do respect them because they do know that they can die in their flesh and blood state, and we do know that the Nephilim and the Fallen, one of the main things they want is a body, and the reason that they want these bodies is so they're able to experience the things that we're able to experience, and that's just kind of my thought on it. These creatures, I believe, are bloodlines from the Nephilim, and I believe that they're very intelligent, and I believe that they know that we can kill them, and they also know that they can kill us. So that's why I always say they're opportunists. Thank you for listening, guys, and until next time, keep your head on a swivel, and don't be something's dinner. We'll see you on the next one.